take up the contents what we found in the syllabus, as well as we give priorities to the context also. For example, we give examples and models, and we give roles, and we give peer activities based on the context. So that is the second type of teaching. And the third one, that is in teaching in general, that is non-syllabus oriented. So this is another variety of or a type of teaching, that is delivering instruction based on the comparative, contrastive, and creative techniques for better understanding of the learner. So here, the method is not particularly stick to the syllabus, and that is not particularly related to the context. It is related to general. So this is to enhance the cognitive thinking ability of the students to compare and contrast and come up with newer creative techniques and strategies in their expressions. So all these three models or types are found in so many language teaching methods, not one particular method. So these are the three types. And which one is given due priority? That is very much important. And some curriculum will give more priority to the first component. Some of them will be neutralized in the second level. And in some schools, they give more priority to the students to come up with their own perspective. So that will be in the third form, in the third level. Some schools are following that one. So here, it is the duty of the language teacher to balance the teaching models and methods, syllabus and context, and choosing what is the needed one. And even after selecting that one, how far these materials are helping the students to come up with newer structures and collocations. If a student is able to create or reproduce what is teaching or what is given to him in the classroom teaching, that won't be a success in teaching. Rather, he must be able to internalize what is taught in the classroom, and he is able to understand perfectly, and he is able to apply, and he is able to analyze, and he is able to critically evaluate, and he has to come up with all these components one by one. Unless otherwise, this activity will not be a versatile one. So this language teaching has all these three levels, and incorporating all these three types in regular teaching is very much essential. It doesn't matter what is the subject. It doesn't matter whether you are teaching grammar, or it doesn't matter whether you are teaching poetry, or you are teaching only the grammatical rules. So it doesn't matter where these samples and examples and models are given, and how they are coming up. So that is important. And here, this is the design of linguistics in language teaching. So what do we do in language teaching, and how these linguistic components are taken up and considered. So the first one is a syllabus design. And the second component is approaches and methods of language teaching. So that is predetermined in many curriculum patterns, and in some curriculum pattern it is up to the teacher or instructor or the moderator who needs to decide. And in the third one, that is language testing and evaluation. So these are the three major components. First one is designing the syllabus, including selecting the textbook, all the other teaching learning materials, they all coming under this design, and approaches and methods, and what are the methods the teachers are following. And we have a lot of methods these days. You know, the age-old method is a grammar translation method, followed by audio-lingual, audio-visual, direct method, suggestopedia, and now computer-aided, computer-assisted, task-based. So many methods, total physical response, activity-based, and so many language teaching methods are existing today. And which method will be suitable for that syllabus, that is very much important. So one particular method will not be suitable to design a syllabus. Or once the syllabus is designed, or once a lesson is prepared, we can decide what kind of method will be suitable for that material, or for that lesson, or at least for that particular unit. So not strictly following one language teaching method, we can go for 2 or 3, or sometime incorporating several. that is made possible easier these days. That we have to decide. And the third one is language testing and evaluation. So that is the third part of this lecture. I will elaborate it in detail. So any kind of teaching needs a perfect testing system. A teaching will not be fulfilled without testing system. Any kind of learning that needs a kind of testing and evaluation system. In most of the cases, people just test. That means including the teachers and the academic setup. They just test and give the scores. That is not necessary. That is not sufficient. So that should go beyond that one. A kind of evaluation in some system is done that we evaluate. That is not right proper way. The evaluation must be methodical, and that should be perfect, and that should be followed in the regular sequence of time. So that we will elaborate on later. So, and language teaching through mechanics. That is the second part of this presentation. So language mechanics are important technical skills for students to learn if they want to become successful communicators. So obviously we have to admit that language components, language mechanics, language aspects, they are the granules of creating the structure. Unless otherwise the learners or the speakers are very particular about how to handle these granules perfectly, the language will be end up with a flaw. So considering these mechanics is very much important. And let's go one by one. I just give you a peripheral idea of the language mechanics for each and every skill. You can understand easily. That all you know very well. For the listening process, this is the simple structure I made. So some source or some language is coming, and we just identify in terms of its listening. And first we apply our knowledge, and then we create our meaning.
And sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
We are not able to see your slides, sir. It is invisible, sir.
Oh my goodness. Just a minute.
Thank you, sir.
Can you see it now?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, just a minute. Is it visible now, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just go one by one. I'll start with listening skill. It's a simple understanding about listening. What kind of process is going inside the human. We received some sound signals, and we apply that sound signals with our previous knowledge and our identifying capacity and some amount of creativity. and finally we come up with the meaning. So that is what we call understanding. So the comprehension involves the understanding of the meaning and not mere listening. So when the words are not understood or identified by the listener, it would become mere sounds, and the listening comprehension fails. So mere listening of the sounds will not produce any meaning. For better listening, the words produced should follow some conventional usage so that the listener may easily understand what he listens. The elements that control the variation in speech are these are the components of speech, but they disturb the listening or they control the listening. That's why I gave this one. So intonation, accent, sound intensity, pauses, delivery rate, and pitch rate. These are the components, or these are the elements that controls the listening capacity of the person, the understanding capacity of the person. That is based on these components uttered by the speaker. Now the mechanics of listening. So some just a 5-stage process I'm just giving you. First one, identification of the sound. So every time we listen, and we need to make sure these sounds are having the right intonation with the right accent and the sound intensity, and all these things are, if they are in perfection, so we can identify the sound perfectly. And once the sounds are received without any hiccups, then the sound sequence can be arranged in the order into words. So sequencing the sound units, sometimes we say it's a phonics, sometimes we call it phones, sometimes we call it phonemes. So the sounds, if they are with the meaning, then we can sequence the sounds in order. So all the phones, if they are having meaningful in that particular language, and if they are organized, then we can identify the word. And once the word is identified, and creating the structural of syntactical structure of the word to organize in the line. And the fourth process is making meaning to the structure, and finally understanding the pragmatics, understanding the meaning. Why this pragmatics is coming as a kind of mechanic in listening? So most of the cases in the real time or in the natural communication, the speaker and listener relationship is controlled by their facial expression, their body movement, their hand gestures, their movements, and their laughs, smiles, their paralinguistic and extralinguistic expressions. All these things are having some pressure or control over the expression of the particular speaker. Expressing a phonic variation that will deteriorate the meaning or that will change the meaning of the speaker. So that will lead to confusion or that will lead to misunderstanding sometimes. So the pragmatics also equally having some role in listening and understanding of the concept conveyed by the speaker. And I just give you the Krashen's monitor model. After 1980s, this Krashen monitor model is taken up for consideration in several researchers and teaching methods also. So he came up with some nice findings on language acquisition. So in acquisition learning hypothesis, his model is a subconscious, where learning is consciously developed by instruction and aided by the error correction. And that is acquisition learning hypothesis. And in monitor hypothesis, the conscious learning is limited to use as a monitor that can edit and make corrections in the learner's output before he writes or speaks. But language fluency relies on acquisition. So whether this language acquisition process is heavily controlled by the fluency of the listener or the fluency of the speaker. And the third one, the natural order hypothesis, that is, learners acquire linguistic structures in a predictable order in first language, and similar order is present in second language acquisition. It is acceptable. In most of the cases, the learners tend to transfer or tend to internalize and expose it to the second language also, in second language practice also. The first language, the structural pressure and pull that will be reflected in the second language acquisition process also. And the next one, the input hypothesis. Learners acquire language by exposure to comprehensible input, that is I+1. And the learning is first focused on meaning, and the structure is learned as a consequence of understanding the meaning and the message. So that is based on the input hypothesis. And the last one, affective filter hypothesis, that is depending on the learner's state of mind. The affective filter limits what is noticed and what is acquired. The presence of an affective filter could act as a mental block if a poor affective state is existed. So this is the Krassen's monitor model. And now I just move to the approaches to the teaching of listening skills. So there are a lot of approaches, especially to the listening skills, and these are the basic and simple activities, or otherwise the methods for teaching listening activities. So which is found very less in Indian curriculum system. Especially for the first language, I don't think that special listening classes are made for the regional languages. In very limited domain, we could notice the listening classes are conducted, or listening course syllabus are designed and followed in any of the curriculum in regional institutions. Even for Tamil, I haven't noticed in larger manner. Only in intended or only in very limited schools, they provide the listening courses for students, especially for Tamil. So does it mean that the listening courses are not necessary for first language learners? Does it mean that the listening of the first language is very pertinent and perfect and good enough in the environment? Or the acquisition of the first language is okay? The second language, the first language learning is not that much necessary in the part of language listening. I don't know why this partiality. So this should be taken into consideration, whether it is the first language or second language. A proper listening course or listening syllabus must be designed, and that should be taught, and that should be tested perfectly. So most of the cases, people say just take it granted. Oh, it is the first language, so I can learn anytime. I used to speak my first language most of the time, and my environment is first language. Why I need to go for listening classes? That is not right. For language management and for language maintenance and for safeguarding a language, and to get rid of the language endangerment for any language, listening is very much essential. Whatever the level of the language, whatever the position status of the language, the listening courses are very much essential. So right now, what we can do for that one, so that is for listening courses, we can include interpersonal activities and group activities and audio segments and video segments that can be assigned for the listening classes. And for materials and tools are available for these kind of things for any language abundantly, and we can consider that one. And the next skill is speaking. That also oral skill. The speaking is the process of building and sharing meaning through the use of verbal and non-verbal symbols in a variety of contexts. So there's a simple definition given by Chaney. And now coming to the point of teaching the speaking skill. And teachers have to provide authentic practice that prepares students for real life communication situations by teaching all mechanics of speaking. And teachers have to help their students develop the ability to produce grammatically correct, logically connected sentences that are appropriate to specific context, and to do so using acceptable, that is comprehensive pronunciation. So these speaking skills are somehow better, and teaching speaking activities in first language and second language is far better than the listening teaching listening skill, because in most of the cases people where literal skills or the literacy skills are not viable or not possible or having some hiccups, people right away taking this speaking skill for all kinds of teaching and testing and all other academic purposes. So the speaking has some more a better priority over the listening skill in oral levels. And the mechanics of speaking, I just give you some components. And these components are now starting with pronunciation, grammar, syntax, fluency, interaction, relevancy, and speaker. So why this speaker is here? So mechanics of speaking, because a speaker need a kind of listener, a listener need a speaker. So here the speaker is the mechanic also here. And who is the speaker here? Whether the speaker is speaking his language in the first language status, or the language is kind of third language status to him, whatever. And the pronunciation he makes, and the grammar he follows, and the syntax he employs, and the fluency he possesses over the language, and the interaction he made with the listener, and the relevancy he made to the point, up to the mark. So these are the mechanics of speaking, and in most of the cases, it is well taken up. But coming to the point of testing, I don't know how far they are able to be tested. But in regular real-time teaching, as well as in the regular teaching, these parameters or the mechanics are being followed. And the next skill is reading. And in the reading process, we have the same like that of listening, because it is also a kind of receptive or passive. What people say, it is not passive, it is still active, but it is not seen obviously. So while reading, people do, or the read is read the signs or codes or symbols, and they just decode or understand, and they just read over the text or word or image, pictures, and also they listen audio, video. I have to tell you one thing. Why I included audio, video, and this is supposed to be watching. If we take up this audio, video, then there is no particular reading over that. Rather, we are just witnessing what is going on in the animation, or in what is going on in the animated process. So there also we could notice a kind of reading activity rather than just watching. There also a kind of a receptive process is there. That's why I just made it in this reading process. And the next one, animations, moments, and recurrence, and moments of continuous, and moments of breaks and changes, and the sensory input. These are the reading mechanics. And the reading mechanics, I just divided into two parts. The first part is the elementary level. The second level is obviously the secondary level. Next level is secondary level. The elementary level reading mechanics includes activities like identification of the letters or symbols with the sounds, establishing the spelling and sound correspondence. And sometimes the spelling determines the sound, not the individual letters. For example, this is sometimes it is right, sometimes it is irregular. That's what initially I told you. The children are able to come up with mistakes and errors. That is not because of their own, it is rather because of their regular patterns. Here we could see the island people tend to commit mistake. That is because of the spelling, the letter, the combination. And the advanced level mechanics are including establishing spelling, meaning correspondence, words and their meaning are important in reading. The knowledge of the words and their semantic functions and identification of them come under these mechanics. So this is a simple idea about the mechanics of reading. And the third one, the protective skill, the last one, or the writing as a mental protection. So in this, we used to write, and we used to convey, and we tend to write, and we need to write in so many occasions. So this is the basic idea behind the writing activity. So a writer used to write for the purpose or for the intention, and the idea. These are in proportionation, in paradigmatic manner, and this what he is writing, and this is the concept, the conception, what he is writing, and the knowledge. So the idea and the knowledge, they incorporate with the conception, and it comes in the form of writing finally. That's what we call the production. And discourse is the parallel component. And the other style of writing, sorry, other mechanics of writing. So this the basic skeleton, and I'll detail it on the next slide. So the spelling, vocabulary, grammar, expression, style, and fluency. So this is the basic skeleton of these mechanics, and these are the details of the mechanics and aspects. So starting with spelling, vocabulary, punctuation, grammar, word order, meaning, pragmatics, style, and fluency. So this is the structure of the writing, and these are the components which are involving in the writing process. So in teaching we do, and we give practice, and also in testing we do. So among all the four skills, only the writing skill is taken into more priority. In teaching as well as in testing, the Indian curriculum system is more relying on the writing skill. At the same time, what is the status of the other three skills? So that is of a big question. And the rest of the three skills also need to be given priority and importance. Because if you just leave this rest of the three, almost the input skills that will be gone. You know, the listening and reading are input skills. The knowledge goes to human mind by means of his experience, and by means of his motor skills, by means of his five senses, and by means of his listening, and by means of his reading. So other than that, it is highly impossible for a person to gain knowledge. So unless otherwise these two input skills, namely listening and reading, given priority in teaching and testing, so the knowledge input sources and the knowledge input will be very controlled, but to a larger extent. Unfortunately, only this writing skill is taken up very seriously. Maybe people have a kind of chauvinism over writing skill, I guess. Since the past, the other essayist, Francis Bacon, in his essay said, writing is the most authentic skill. People used to, speak, listen, and write. He used to call speaking makes a ready man, and listening makes a ready man, speaking make a right man, and writing is an exact man. So writing is given that much of priority since a long back. The people follow it, and these days we have a lot of scientific advancements. Testing the students through listening skills is very much easier, much more easier than testing the writing skills. And teaching the reading skills are also equally easier. By using this computer-based testing system, and by using call mechanism and call mechanism, teaching and testing the listening skills are much more easier. And I don't know why this curriculum pattern is still not considering that much. Right, these are the things about mechanics for the four skills. Now I just move to the, before that I'll just conclude it with a Batchman's understanding. So this Batchman, another language expert, linguist, he related language testing to language teaching and language use. Design tests so as to encourage and enable test takers to perform at their highest level of ability, and build considerations of fairness into test design, and humanize the testing process, seek ways in which to involve test takers more directly into the testing process. Treat test takers as responsible individuals, provide them with as complete information about the entire testing process as possible. So this is from the testing perspective by Batchman. So it's the third part of my presentation. So this is about testing, assessment, and evaluation. So you could see what are the relationship between these three. You can ask me what is the test and what is assessment and what is evaluation. So for all these three activities, testing can be called as a nucleus. Testing is very much important, and assessment is a little bit larger sense, and the evaluation is in the true and versatile sense. That's the simple layman definition I can give you. So testing is the basic for all these three activities. By testing, we are able to understand the level of or the achievement of the learners in language. So that is the testing. And assessment, and based on the testing, we are able to identify the ability of the students to pinpoint them or to give them some feedback. So that is assessment. So in classroom management, we used to assess, for example, if a student is performing poor and is listening, we can say, you are not listening, this could be the reason, these are the things like that we can give assessment. So that assessment is on the part of subject as well as on the part of classroom behavior. That is made possible in the classroom. That is the second component. And the third component is called evaluation. That is more serious in the sense. Through evaluation, we are able to authentically configure the true level or the true achievement of the students, and what is especially what is behind the failure of the students, as well as we can identify what are the plus points and how they are able to succeed in their attempt. So that is called the evaluation, identifying the true nature and true achievement of the student. That is called evaluation. So let's see the types of test and assessment and evaluation. No, I have slides. I'll just move a bit faster. Kindly follow it up because already it is timing now. It's already 5 o'clock. Madam, shall I take 10 more minutes or 15 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the simple definition for testing, assessment, evaluation. And first, testing. So testing is an important phenomenon from science to arts in order to weigh, measure, and qualify the validity and the quantum of things. That's the key purpose. And the next one, and in order to find out the nature and state of the student's proficiency, tests are to be conducted, and the results are the only source which provide valuable ideas and suggestions. And the most common use of language test is to pinpoint strengths and weakness in the learned abilities of the students. This is testing. And this is the definition given by Rich. Tests are any instruments of evaluation which measure ability, knowledge, performance by eliciting observable behavior from the test taker as they try to make accurate predictions about small samples of performance in a complex structure or like language. And this in language context, a test is designed to measure and evaluate students' language proficiency according to different qualities. And this is a testing process. So this is a simple idea for your understanding about testing process. So we test the things in by using the testing tools. We have a lot of testing tools. We have test batteries, and we have questionnaires, and we have samples, and the methodology we follow in different senses. So by using the testing tool, we are able to test the abstract and concrete stuff. And this abstract is related to knowledge, and concrete can be things and goods, etc. So this can be roughly designed as a testing body. And while coming to the point of testing the true knowledge of the students, we cannot come with high accuracy. That is also related to the problem of Plato. Even if we use the paradigmatic and syntagmatic analysis of particular language exposed or expressed, or even if we give larger avenues to brainstorm the true sense and ability of the students to come up with all kinds of associative meaning in their language and structure, it is difficult to authentically say the real accuracy of the knowledge potential of the student, because it is language. So the cognitive, the neural efficiency of the learners that changes from different perspectives. Even the true context may be different. A student who is performing in the class with true intention, without any other distractions, can come up with wonderful cognitive process. So his neurocognitive abilities in normal classroom performance will be higher, whereas if he is put in a condition where he is not feeling convenient. For example, if you just take the students away from the class and if you just put him in the different class, and if you just give him the same question, that response from the student will be different. So the knowledge components in testing process related to abstract things are having only low accuracy. That's the problem. And whereas when we test the things with concrete, for example, buying the things and goods, we can authentically say, even with decimals in 0.001% accuracy, we can achieve. So the testing process in language having a lot of compromise, and it is up to us, it is up to the tester to decide and select the right test battery with right testing conditions. And this is a type of test I just give you. There are a lot of tests, and we use the test in different occasions. So the first one is achievement test. An achievement test, which is referred as a summative test, aims to measure the amount of a language someone has learned with reference to a particular coursework of study or program. That is called achievement test. And the next one is called a diagnostic test. A diagnostic test is important in the teaching learning process, through which the teacher can identify the problems of the learners in language abilities. And diagnostic tests are designed to analyze linguistic aspects of the learners. And the diagnostic test, through that we provide a platform to the learners for self-learning by making use of their previously learned linguistic knowledge, and testing the students using appropriate diagnostic test kits in their language and knowledge abilities, and providing the students with the right information about their strengths and weakness of use and usage of their language. And again, discrete point test. Discrete point test consider the language can be divided into its components, and those components can be tested successfully. And the discrete point test, also called as discrete item test, considered to measure the knowledge of individual language items such as grammar test, syntax test, pronunciation test, etc. And next one is language aptitude test. So there is to test the potential ability of the learner, and the ability of the learner, it can be tested in the formal conditions with the formal aptitude test. So this can predict the level of the success of the learners. And this test also called as a personal, to understand, identify the language, the personal and other abilities related to the language learning. And the next one is called placement test, and we use this placement test in different occasions for different reasons. So in academic level, to fix a student in the right class, we use the placement test. And in employment activities, the employer, they used to conduct tests to identify the right person to work in their concern. They also conduct this kind of placement test. It is very specific. And language proficiency test, it is to test the ability of the person in the given situation. So it considers the language ability of the user in real world purposes to accomplish real world linguistic tasks across a wide range of applications. And a progress test considers identifying the progress of learners in a given point of time in that selected learning item. And it is closely related to the particular teaching material and the particular course of instruction. And progress tests are administered several times during the coursework, such as at the end of a unit or a course or a term. A progress test may be viewed as similar to an achievement test, but much narrower and much more specific in scope. So learner scope and achievements obtained due to the progress test help examiners in general and language teachers in particular to assess the degree of success of their programs and testing. So this type of authentic results help the language teachers and developers to identify the shortcomings and weakness of the coursework and thereby avoid them in future planning. So this is an advantage of this kind of progressive tests. So now the next one is assessment. So the assessment process also having some so before that, I just give you the definition of assessment. Appraising or estimating the level or magnitude of some attribute of a person. So that is the definition given by the Encyclopedia Dictionary of Language Testing. The next definition by Mihai. That is categorized according to intention, purpose, interpretation, and administration. And in regard to the intention, an assessment can be informal when it is a spontaneous comment, or it can be formal when it is carried out in the systematic manner. So most of the classroom assessment, you can see it may be informal. For example, a student who is speaking or who is responding with different kinds of body language or gesture, or with different tones, or with basic mistakes. So the teacher used to passingly comment on the student. That is also a kind of assessment. That what we call informal. And in terms of purpose, an assessment can be formative if it focuses on the process of learning, or it can be summative when it is used to measure the student learning outcomes at the end of the education cycle. So these are the types of assessment. First one is validity. It is a validity of test, where it is taken in the right area, and whether it is not disturbed by other parameters. And reliability, a test is considered reliable if it is administered on different occasions and similar results are obtained. So next one is reliability. And another one is practicality. It refers to the logistical, practical, and administrative issues involved in the process of constructing, administering, and rating and assessment instrument. And next one is equivalency. An assessment has the property of equivalency if it is directly based on curriculum standards of instructional activities. So specifically, equivalency determines in what ways assessment design is influenced by testing. And the last one is WASBAC. This is a kind of step or process, the effect of testing and assessment on the language teaching curriculum that is related to it. So to identify and understand the impact or effect or affectations of the particular test battery system, and what are the outcome, that to find out, we have this WASBAC. And it is by Ellis, another language assessment expert. Much of the earlier second language acquisition work focused on the linguistics, and in particular the grammatical properties of learner language, and was psycholinguistics in orientation. That work has also attended to the pragmatic aspects of learner language, and increasingly has adopted sociolinguistic perspective. So now in the last part of this third part of this lecture is evaluation. So evaluation is an activity through which the human behaviors, actions, and happenings of the world are identified, perceived, and realized. It is the only activity that controls and provides valid judgments and conclusions about each and every activity of the day-to-day events. So as we discussed earlier, the evaluation has a larger sense compared to the test and assessment. And the test is a part in the process of evaluation, but not the whole of it. So in most of the cases, the teachers just stop with the test. Once they know the ability of the students, they just stop it up. It is not quite right practice in teaching and testing. So even though we just call it as a testing, but the testing is not fulfilled unless otherwise the teacher is able to provide the right feedback to the students based on his achievement. So if that achievement is, even if it is on par with the highest level, higher standards, it is the duty of the tester to give where he is lacking and how he misses the score in what event and what occasion and what context. So that is the true sense of evaluation. And an evaluation process may be complete when the tests are rightly interpreted with pros and cons of it. So just now we witnessed what are the parameters of assessment. So we have to look into the validity, and we have to look into the availability, and we also need to consider other logistics and other things, reliability, and all these parameters also to be considered in the testing. So the role of evaluation, identification of courses, objectives, the expected desire of learning outcome, and defining the objectives in terms of learner's terminal behavior, and constructing appropriate tools or instruments for measuring the behavior, and applying or administering the tools, instruments, and analyzing the results to determine the degrees of learners' achievement in the instructional program. And the above four steps are basically the same in the evaluation of instructions, curriculum, or the program of as a whole. So both measurement and evaluation require broad variety of tools or instruments such as tests, rating scales, inventories, checklist, questionnaires, etc. And these are the types of evaluation for your understanding. There are two major divisions in it. One is called ongoing evaluation. The second one is called terminal evaluation. And in terminal evaluation, we have four subcategories called formative, summative, brief, and extensive. So I'll just give you a brief introduction to all these things, and you can take it up in your feature course of your profession, if possible. So the ongoing evaluation is meant for getting the feedback regularly after the completion of every step during this process. It is namely the planning, preparation, production, and application. And this would enable the program to improve at various stages at the time of program itself. And this type of evaluation is more helpful to modify anything if necessary in the course of the didactic process. And the next one is terminal evaluation, which has four types. Terminal evaluation is a type of evaluation that is made after the completion of the program, and it is used to know whether the program is success or failure. This type of evaluation would not be used for any improvement of the program. In general, evaluation has been further classified into four categories, namely formative, summative, brief, and extensive. So the first one is type formative evaluation. It's a process of evaluation that is made from time to time in the case of an instructional program and from one stage or the other. It does not provide a totalitarian impression of the quality either of the instructional programs, the techniques and the methods, materials, or media. And the next one, summative evaluation, is the kind of evaluation which takes into consideration the periodic evaluation that has been made and in addition to a total evaluation of the program. So process of product made and the conclusions are arrived at keeping in view of the outcome of the periodic evaluation in addition to the final evaluation. The last two, brief evaluation, evaluating a program can also be made taking into account only some aspects, and the evaluator can also give a judgment based on the few aspects chosen for evaluation. But it will be subjective or and impressionistic and not a realistic one. This can be useful to roughly compare two or more programs. And last one, extensive evaluation. It involves the analysis of a program in its entire main and sub aspects. The evaluator has to rate and weigh each of them individually and consolidate the total rating based on which he makes his value judgment. This is more objective and valid. So this is a third part of my lecture. I am afraid whether I have time or not. So the last part of my presentation, as I told you earlier, it is related to the language expression of the people during the COVID-19 period. If you wish, I can just give you a couple of slides, or I will just complete it. Madam, are you there?
Sir, yes, sir.
So shall I complete, or I'll just go to the fourth part and complete it in 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As time constraint, we are not able to provide more time for you, sir. Very sorry for this.
It's okay. Okay, I'll try my level best to complete in. So I just started from the last slide so that I can save some time for you. I'll just go from the last slide. Then you can understand why I made these things. Right. Seriously, still wandering and roaming around. So those people, what these people who follow the rules called as idiot. So they clumped these two expression, COVID and idiot. They made it as COVID. And the next item is morona. A person behaving stupidly because of or during the coronavirus outbreak. So a kind of person who is behaving crazy and not following this thing is called morona. Corona, they just moron or morona like that. And some portmanteau expression. And COVID party, the parties through Skype and Zoom and Google Meet. We are not in the party, though we are in Google Meet. So people who enjoy or spend their time with happy moments through this kind of online applications, that is called the COVID party or video party. And then another one is corona illusional. That is corona illusional. That is suffering from disordered thinking as a result of or during the COVID-19 crisis. So people who think that they may have affected by the coronavirus disease or something like that. And the next one is co-exit, the idea of exiting the lockdown, the idea of so this expression, quarantine streams like that, a special online streaming during the quarantine period. You could see a lot of streams are going on. Once we could see only YouTube. Nowadays we can see a lot of applications. Recently I heard that GeoMeet also a kind of streaming application. So during the quarantine period, the streams are booming. That is called quarantine streams. That's what they express. And there's other collocations we have these days. Negative pressure rooms specially designed for patients with contagious diseases that contain any circular air in the room and prevent it from being released in any other part of the hospital. And viral shedding, the period of time after virus has replicated in the host and is being emitted. So these are very new combinations. And pre-symptomatic and cordon sanitaire and formate, herd immunity, immune surveillance, immunosuppressed, contact tracing, contactless, case fatality rate, clinical trial, acute respiratory stress syndrome. We have seen only acute respiratory syndrome. that is SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. That is what we call as SARS. But now there is a new kind of syndrome called ARDS after the pandemic of COVID-19, and asymptomatic. And drive-through testing, flattening the curve, PPE, self-monitoring, self-isolation, shelter in peace order, cluster, community spread, droplet transmission, super spreader, SARS-CoV-2, social distancing, quarantine. All right, I'll just complete it with one data that is from Oxford English Dictionary that will reflect the true sense of the human being and why and how they are able to come up with the expression and what made them to come up with the expression that you can identify and understand. So the Oxford English Dictionary from their corpora, they are able to identify the frequency of the words used during this quarantine period. So these are the words people use during the quarantine period, especially from January to March 2020. Not now, the word list might have been larger in numbers. This is from January to March. So this is the general list of the words which were used very frequently as per the Oxford corpus. So you could notice from 1 to 20, all the words having or saying something to the people, or the very word will express the meaning. That meaning will show the state or mind of the people who were. So the first one: outbreak, novel, deadly, Wuhan, spread, China, 2019, COVID, strain, case, infection, infect, confirm, epidemic, originate, symptom, new, fear, toll, spreading, declare. So the February also the similar kind of words are repeated. Only the orders are jumbled. And also in March, only these words are jumbled here and there. So if you take up the words in a semantic perspective, what kind of meaning is left out and what kind of sensation it reveals among the people. So that is highly negative, highly negative. So the chart shows the frequency per million tokens. Tokens are the smallest unit of the corpus, typically either words or punctuation for consistency. And also variant spellings and inflected forms are included. For example, figures, these are other types, but anyhow, the words are the same. And the words used in current crisis show that people's state of mind and topic of communication, priority and concern, severity and safety, prevention, uncertainty, stressfulness, and fear. So these state of people's mind is completely reflected from the very corpus. So now we have that kind of sophisticated scientific methodology and methods and systems. And by using this kind of online survey, we could understand the true sense of the language speaker and language expression. Language, if we apply this kind of expressions by the layman or learned man from Plato's perspective. So the language is coming not just from the learned potential houses, rather it can be from any kind of sources. So it is the duty of the curriculum and system and the pattern to give avenues and opportunities for the people to come up with newer structures, newer models. So at least the syllabus and design that should provide to accelerate the cognitive neural abilities of the language users. So what methods or what system can be provided? So we have to consider the mentalist approach and the cognitive approach and the other models also, neurocognitive semantics, and all these approaches should be considered in curriculum point of view, incorporated with the syntactical patterns. So only then we can enhance or accelerate the language uses with nicer and newer strategies and techniques. Why I'm telling you this is compared to the previous contribution of the writers, especially in the literature or in the protection of the didactics, the written works or the rhetoric are very, very limited, very, very minimal. Now we could see only the novel-based or aesthetic-based potential outcomes are coming. It is a kind of mushroom literature, which is not standard, which is not didactic, which is only for fun and entertainment, where we are missing a kind of intellectual essence, what we witness in the classical writings. So the Plato's problem will go extended to larger extent, unless otherwise we are giving the right perspective to language teaching. So with this, I just conclude. Most of you are language teachers and researchers doing researchers in languages. You take up this one and you consider the points of inculcating and augmenting the avenues for including these kind of the mind related and the cognitive based styles of meaning making process among the students in syllabus designing possibilities. So with this, I just want to conclude this lecture. I hope I gave something, and it is already 5:30 now. And if you have any questions or clarification, you are welcome.
So sorry, sir. Here we are getting a frequent markets now. So we are requesting the participants to have the discussion with you personally,
Okay.
because we have to wind up soon. As in between itself, we had some 7 or 8 times power cut.
Oh my goodness! Sorry to hear that.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
Okay, ma'am, no problem. You know whatever the question posted by the people, you can just send it to me. I'll just.
Thank you for your wonderful session, sir. Now I would like to invite our coordinator, Dr. Nedajilian, to give a formal thanks for your wonderful presentation. Sir, please, sir.
Good evening, all of you. I wish to thank you who participated in our webinar on the role of linguistics and language teaching and learning. Our most valuable invited chief guest, Professor B.M. Subramanian, Head of the Department, Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore. Dear participants, various parts of India and abroad, research scholar, student, dear colleagues, and non-teaching members in our center. It is indeed a privilege for me to propose a heartfelt vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee and my own behalf. I wish to extend my sincere thanks to our respected Professor B.M. Subramanian, Head of the Department in Linguistics, Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore, for his delivering lecture on linguistics perspective and teaching and testing. In the way of
No power cut ஆயிடுச்சா? Hello?
Oh.
Power cut ஆயிடுச்சா? Hello?
I think there's a problem with the host, sir.
Okay.
Sir, just a minute, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
Sir, you have well explained about how linguistics knowledge helps the language teacher while teaching their particular text. The distinction between linguistics and meta-linguistics knowledge, which are essential for language teachers. Sir, you have well explained about how linguistics knowledge helps the language teacher while teaching their particular text. The distinction between linguistics and metalinguistics knowledge, which are essential for language teachers. Concept of teaching language and types of language teaching. Different language skills like speaking, listening, writing, and reading. What are the mechanics of language skills and various stages of the mechanics? How linguistics knowledge is very must for syllabus designing, framing, language teaching, methods and testing and evaluation of the student abilities as well study material and so on. Sir, I thank you once again on behalf of our center and my own behalf. I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the participants, various scholars from linguistics, director and dear colleagues, research scholar, student and non-teaching members of the center. I thank you, all of you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nalajalian. Thank you, sir.